You're listening to Psych to Parent, where we turn brain science into tiny wins at home. I'm Dr. Amy, your not-so-typical school psychologist, mom of two, and endurance athlete. I love a good data set and a diagnostic manual. But I also forget permission slips, overthink IEP emails, and occasionally replay the moment I snapped at my kids in the car. In other words, I'm in the messy middle with you, not above it. This show is for parents of big feeling, big thinking kids who are tired of vague advice and Pinterest perfect behavior charts. Each episode, I'll pull back the curtain on what I see in real evaluations, school meetings, my private practice, and my own kitchen, and translate the research into simple scripts, tiny routines, and nervous system friendly tweaks you can actually use. Think of it as a nervous system rehab meets mindset coaching meets a smart, slightly spicy, non-judgy friend in your earbuds. We'll take one real life challenge at a time and shrink it down into 1 or 2 tiny wins you can start this week. No perfection, no 47-step sticker systems, just small, repeatable shifts that add up over time. Quick legal-ish note in plain English. This podcast is for education and support. It's not therapy, it does not create a clinical relationship, and it's not a substitute for personalized medical or mental health advice. If you're worried about your child's safety or mental health, or your own, please reach out to a trusted professional. Okay, deep breath, drop your shoulders. You're not behind and you're not alone. Let's get psyched to parent. Okay, quick scene. It's a weekday morning and you're doing the parent triathlon of socks, shoes, water bottle, lunch, the where is the other shoe kind of morning. And because the universe loves comedy, your kid suddenly remembers they need a poster board for something due today, as in like when they get to school. And your phone buzzes and it's a school email and the subject line is something like reading block concerns or some observations or the classic just checking in. You open it and it says, hey, we're noticing your child is falling behind in reading. Also, they've been going to the nurse during the reading block. And we're seeing a little more avoidance and behavior concerns here at school right now. And your stomach drops because you're thinking 2 things at the same time. 1, my kid is struggling. 2, I don't have the brain space for one more task. You're standing there with the lunchbox open, staring at the email like it's written in a different language, because it kind of is. And here's the sentence I keep coming back to. And I heard it from a parent recently in a way that was so real. If you don't know what you don't know, you don't know. So in this episode, I'm not handing you a binder of a bunch of school stuff that you're supposed to understand overnight. We're not cramming for an exam here. I'm handing you a shopping list and a map. So you can walk into the school with a list, kind of like going to Costco, and leave with the stuff that your kid actually needs, not something that you were tempted by because you saw it as a sample at Costco. And before we get into the list, I want you to know exactly what you're walking away with. Hey, welcome back to Psych to Parent. I'm Dr. Amy, school psychologist, mom of 2, endurance athlete, and parent coach for families with strong-willed, big-feeling kiddos. Here's my promise for this episode. By the end of this episode, you'll know 10 school supports parents often forget to request before we even talk about special education. And you'll have simple language for how to ask in a way that's clear, collaborative, and not a 12-paragraph novel, because nobody's got time for that. And today's episode freebie is the K-12 school supports. It's a checklist plus copy and paste scripts, so you can do this without reinventing the wheel. Because let's be honest, school supports can feel like walking into Costco on a Saturday with a 5-item list. It's loud, it's a lot, and your nervous system as a parent is like, nope, not today. So we're keeping this simple. 1 barrier, 1 support, 1 review date. Okay, let's do the part that makes this episode land, the messy middle. The why this slips through the cracks, even for good parents. If you're listening and thinking, why does it feel impossible to keep up with the school stuff? I want you to hear this. It's not because you're failing. It's because the mental load is real. You're juggling getting your kids to school, work, meals, homework, after-school activities, family stuff. And then the school layer gets added on top like a bonus level you didn't sign up for. And a lot of parents are parenting their first school-age kid or their only kid. And so they don't have a frame of reference. So it's not just logistics, it's also uncertainty. I've been there too. Even when you're a professional in this space, you can still look back and think, oh, I wish I'd asked sooner. But here's the line I want to offer you. Take it if you need it. It's never too late to ask. Earlier support is often easier. Yes, 1,000%. I love intervention when kids are in pre-K, kindergarten, amazing. But intervention in second grade is better than intervention in fifth grade. But intervention in fifth grade is amazing compared to intervention in eighth grade. But asking now, right now, if you're having concerns for your child is always better than waiting until things have snowballed. And here's my gentle, spicy take on things. You're not a bad parent for not knowing. You are learning your kid and how to advocate for what's best for them. Now let's make this brain-based, because when parents understand the why, they feel less shame around this topic and there's more traction. Let's talk about the kid who's avoiding reading, because what it can look like is this. They're suddenly going to the nurse's station during the reading block. Maybe they're refusing to do their nightly reading at home with you. Maybe they melt down when it's time to practice doing their flashcards or sight words at home. Maybe they're acting silly or disruptive during a hard part of the day at school. Maybe they're saying things like, I hate school, or this is boring, or I don't like reading, when actually school feels really hard for them. Here's the brain translation. When something feels too hard or too confusing or too shamey or too threatening to your kid's nervous system, their brain does what brains do. It tries to avoid the threat. Now, avoidance isn't laziness. Avoidance is protection. And for a big feeling kid, the protective response can be loud. They can fight, argue, refuse. They can try and have flight where they escape to the nurse. They might freeze and shut down, or they might fawn and be people-pleasing at school until they crumble later at home with you. Also, this is tiny but super important. When kids are hungry, tired, or stressed, their brains have less capacity for effortful tasks. This is why food supports and healthy plans aren't extras. They're nervous system supports. And nervous system supports are learning supports. Okay, I want to put a school psych in your back pocket kind of moment here, because knowing why is helpful and knowing what to do next is power. I want to give you a simple decision tool that makes school supports feel less mysterious. Here are 3 anchor questions. Write these down on a sticky note, or you can grab them in my freebie. Question number 1, what exactly are we doing? This is not extra help. We want to know, what's the intervention, what accommodation, what support, what's the plan? Question number 2, how often is it happening? Frequency matters. Sometimes doesn't change much. Question number 3, how will we measure whether it's working? This is the data piece. We want to be thinking about things like student work samples, progress monitoring scores, teacher observations, and what you're seeing at home. And here's the rule that keeps kids from getting stuck in the, we'll just keep doing this forever kind of phase, the timer rule. This is super important. Try something for a set amount of time, then review data. Commonly, for intervention, we suggest a 4 to 8 week cycle. If it works, that's amazing. Keep going. Keep that intervention in place. It's awesome. Maybe we can gradually fade the support. If it's not working, that's not bad news. That is information. It tells you we might need to increase the intensity of the intervention, we might need to change the approach, and we might need to consider an evaluation. Now, let me translate this into school language that works: quick, clean, and most importantly, collaborative. Here's how schools tend to organize supports before special education. They look at things like what the barrier is, like access, a skill, regulation, behavior, emotional needs. They also look at what supports can be tried, and they look at what the data shows. So instead of going in with, I think my child has blank, you can go in with, here's what we're seeing at home. Here's the barrier. Can we try a time-limited support plan with a specific goal and progress monitoring data collection? And then review the data in 6 weeks. And here's the Costco rule. We're not buying the whole store. We are choosing what matches your child's barrier, one item at a time. Then we review. That's how you can avoid support limbo. Now let's put this into real life because if one thing, now let's put this into real life because it's one thing to understand supports and it's another thing to picture how it shows up after school, at homework time, and at bedtime. All right. All right. All right. Let's go back to that first, second grade reading kiddo that we talked about at the beginning of the episode. Here's how this can show up after school. Your child walks in and collapses emotionally because school took everything they had. They might be tearful, irritable, or nothing happened, but their body says otherwise. You can just see it by looking at them. And inside, as a parent, you're thinking, but the teacher says they're fine. Then you sit down for 20 minutes, and then when it comes to homework or the nightly reading, you sit down for the 20 minutes of reading, and suddenly your kid can't. They argue, they refuse, they forget how to do everything. They need the bathroom, a drink of water. They need to tell you a story right now from their day. Anything but reading. And at bedtime, you might even hear something like this, honestly. I hate school. I hate reading. I'm stupid. Or maybe you get the body version where there's more stalling, more dysregulation, more tears. And this is where parents often assume the problem is motivation. But a lot of times it's a capacity issue. It's skills, it's access, it's nervous system overload. This brings us to the reframe I want you to hold as we go through the top 10 supports you can ask for, because the list is going to feel very different when you hear it through this lens. When a strong-willed, big feeling, big brain kiddo avoids reading, the message is often, this feels too hard or too unsafe in my body. I need out, like right now. That's not manipulation. That's a nervous system doing its job. So the goal is not to win reading time through power struggles. The goal is to reduce barriers and build skill without shame. Okay, Costco trip time. I'm going to walk you through the aisles so you can see what's available, what it's for, and what to say, without leaving with a cart full of stuff you didn't even want. Now, I went through the literature and I specifically looked at the Florida Department of Education and different supports that they have for children before we get to special education services. Now, if you are listening in the state of Florida, these are going to be great things that you can ask at your own schools for your kids. Now, if you're outside of the state of Florida, you might need to do a little bit of digging about what those supports can look like. A lot of these are also part of the overall Department of Education's umbrella of services we offer, but language, wording, how we ask for things might look a little bit different. If you have questions, don't hesitate to hit me up with an email. Amy at Psych to Parent. Okay, these are the top 10 school supports that parents forget to ask for before we get to special education. Number 1 is the MTSS plan, progress monitoring and review date. So MTSS stands for multi-tiered systems of support. It's basically the school system's way for trying supports on purpose, not just we'll keep an eye on it kind of thing. The key is a clear plan, simple data collection, and an actual review date so your child just isn't stuck in this support limbo. So one of the things you can say to the school team is this: can we create a time-limited support plan for my child with a specific goal, a way to collect progress monitoring data, and a review date in the next 6 to 8 weeks? Once that foundation is in place, the next question often is, what's the actual learning support we're using? This brings us to number 2, academic intervention supports, which can be done for both reading and math. This is a targeted teaching. It's usually done in a small group setting or one-on-one with a kiddo and a teacher who has expertise in reading instruction, writing instruction, math instruction. The school I worked at had a science instructor who did science intervention. And what we're doing with targeted teaching is we're matching it to the child's skill level. It's not more homework. It's different instruction delivered more intentionally and oftentimes more frequently. So you might ask this question to the school: what intervention are we using with my child? How often is it being done? And how will we measure progress? And a lot of kids, it's just not academics. It's the predictable stress points around the academics. So number 3 is this, tier 2 behavior support. So oftentimes when we talk about supports for behavior, an idea is something like check in and check out. So tier 2 behavior supports are for small groups of students who might need just a little bit of help with their behavior. This is a structured support for kids who get stuck at predictable times, like the reading block, maybe it's transitions or after recess, maybe in the cafeteria. And it gives them an adult anchor and a simple daily feedback loop so they're not carrying the whole day alone. So, an example of a specific intervention for tier 2 behavior support is check in, check out. And you can ask for it. You can say to your child's school, can we try a tier 2 support like check in, check out for 4 to 6 weeks and review simple data? Check in, check out is literally where a child checks in the morning with their person. They have some sort of tracking system, tracking sheet, very simple, and they go throughout their day. And then they come back and check out with that same person at the end of the day. Simple, easy data collection. Sometimes just having a caring adult and knowing who can help them works wonders. Number 4, trial accommodations. You can do those now and don't have to wait for paperwork. This can also include assistive technology. A lot of parents think accommodations only happen after a 504 plan or an IEP, but many supports can be tried right away as a taste test. The goal is to reduce barriers while skills are being taught, then keep what works and drop what doesn't. So we can say something like this to the school. Can we trial a few accommodations for 2 to 3 weeks and then review what changed? Some quick examples of this include things like audio support, partner reading, reducing the copy load in the classroom, maybe chunking assignments, having movement breaks. Now, we want to make sure we're not missing any hidden basic access issues that look like motivation or behavior. So this is where things like our number 5 comes from, screening and follow-up for things like speech, vision, and hearing. Before we assume it's motivation or behavior, we want to rule out hidden barriers for our kids. Things like hearing, vision, communication skills, those can influence how a child performs in the classroom. Screenings done can answer questions like, is my child missing information before we even get to learn it? And one of the things we can ask at school is this, can you confirm my child's hearing and vision screening results? And can we consider a speech language screening or consult if communication is impacting access? And listen, it also could be the body is the barrier. Writing, stamina, sensory motor regulation. We want to name that too. Number 6 on my list is occupational and physical therapy screening or consult. So that also is oftentimes called OT or PT. OT and PT isn't just for big, obvious needs. This can matter when handwriting is exhausting for your kiddo, their posture or stamina is low, or sensory motor regulation is getting in the way. If the body is struggling, the brain can't do its best work. Here's what you can say to the school. I'm noticing motor, sensory, handwriting issues, or maybe fatigue issues that seem to impact my child's access to the learning environment. What is the process for an OT, PT screening, or consult? Now let's talk about other supports that help kids emotionally and socially, especially in hard seasons of life. Number 7 on my list is short-term counseling or skills groups. Some school counseling support is short-term and situational for things like grief, divorce, family changes, friendship stress, learning coping skills. It's not a forever therapy plan. It's targeted support during a hard season. So we can ask the school, are there brief counseling supports or small groups available for this season to help my child? And sometimes a kid's school day is getting derailed by health or by health plus anxiety. And we want to plan, not guesswork. So number 8 on the list is school nurse supports and a health plan. If your child is visiting the nurse a lot, it might be health, anxiety, avoidance, or a mix. And a nurse plan can reduce the barrier during the school day. The goal isn't to stop the visits to the nurse, it's to make school feel safer and more predictable. So one of the things we can say at school is this. Can we loop in the nurse to reduce health barriers during the day and create a plan if we need it for my child? Okay, This next one sounds super basic, but it's one of the most underappreciated school supports for big feeling kids. Number 9 on my list is breakfast and lunch supports. I know this sounds basic, but it's huge. Hungry kids have less regulation and less stamina for hard tasks. Food support is nervous system support, and nervous system support is learning support. So you can ask your school this: how do families access breakfast lunch supports here? And what helps my child be successful with it? I know in my county where I live in Florida, all children in public schools are eligible for free breakfast every morning to help with food scarcity. That's a huge win where kids can go make sure they have a delicious breakfast before they start their learning in their school day. All right. This brings me to my last support. So here's the thing. We've gone through 9 different supports you can ask for before we even talk about special education services for your kiddo. Number 10 is formal pathways. The tools you can use when the need is bigger, longer lasting, and not responding to tier 2 supports. Number 10 on my list is formal pathways. This is where we can request a 504 plan or a special education evaluation. These aren't scary labels, they're tools. A 504 plan is designed to help a child access the learning environment and curriculum by providing accommodations. And a special education evaluation is huge, especially when we suspect that your child might need more intensive supports or specialized instruction. So here's something you can say when you are looking at a 504 plan for your kiddo. I'm requesting a 504 plan evaluation to determine whether my child qualifies and what accommodations would support my child's access to the learning environment. Here's what you can say if you're looking for an evaluation. I'm requesting a comprehensive evaluation for my child in all areas of suspected disability. Please send consent paperwork and explain next steps and timelines. As a parent, you are allowed to ask for these things, and you're allowed to have conversations with school about these things. Now, I want to hand you a few scripts you can use verbatim from me, including what to do when you hit that classic school roadblock response. All right, so here are a couple scripts you can try. I'm going to give you 3 today. All right, script number 1. We want to put an MTSS plan in place and have a review date. Simple script. Can we create a targeted support plan for my child with a specific goal, progress monitoring data, and a review date in the next 6 to 8 weeks? Script number 2. Trial accommodations, like a taste test. You can ask the school, can we trial 2 or 3 accommodations for 2 to 3 weeks? Like audio support, reducing copying, chunking assignments, or incorporating movement breaks into his day, and then review what changed. Script number 3, tier 2 support like check-in and check-out. You can say, can we try a tier 2 support like check-in and check-out, or a similar tier 2 support plan for 4 to 6 weeks and review the data together? Script number 4, when the school says, let's wait and see, you can say something like this: I'm open to watching and waiting if we also have a plan. What support will we try during that time? How will we measure it? When will we meet again to review the data? Now we're going to make this doable. Tiny wins only. Remember, pick one is enough. Tiny win number 1, pick one barrier and write one sentence. The barrier is blank. Reading stamina, decoding, avoidance, anxiety, fatigue. Tiny win number 2, send one email using 3 anchor questions. What are we doing? How often? How will we measure it? Tiny win number 3, choose 2 trial accommodations to taste for 2 to 3 weeks. Yes, 2, not 10. Tiny win number 4, ask for the review date in the same email. Put it on your calendar. Make sure you get a notification for it. Tiny win number 5, start a tiny dot log. 2 sentences per week about what you're seeing at home. If you try to do all of them, your nervous system will revolt. This is the one item in the cart kind of week. Pick one is enough. If this episode made you exhale a little, subscribe so you don't have to hunt for help in crisis mode. And make sure you grab the freebie from today's episode. It's for K-12 school supports. It's basically your Costco shopping list, and that way you don't have to remember everything while you're living your real life. And if you want practical, non-shamey support in your inbox, join the Tiny Wins email list. It's made for tired parents who want brain-based help that actually fits real life. I'm really honored to be one of the people cheering you on as you parent your strong-willed, big-feeling, big-hearted kiddo, especially on the days you're reading an email about reading block concerns and mystery nurse visits, while you're also trying to remember Spirit Day, find the missing library book, and figure out whether you're supposed to know what MTSS even means. And somehow, you're expected to respond calmly and coherently, like you're not already running the whole household. Like, okay, we'll keep making the homeschool puzzle less mysterious together. One better question at a time, one same kid, different math reminder at a time, one reset before requests after school, one dot log sentence, one email that's clear and firm without being a novel or a dissertation. And the next time you sit at that tiny round table in that tiny chair, remember, schools have expertise and you are the expert on your child. Your insight is not extra, it's essential. You're not behind, you're building a partnership and you're building skills, yours and theirs, one small, doable step at a time. Until next time, friends. Thank you for hanging out with me on Psych to Parent. I'm Dr. Amy, your not so typical school psychologist, and I'm genuinely glad you're here doing this work instead of quietly white knuckling it and blaming yourself. Your tiny win from today's episode is simple. Do not overhaul your entire parenting style. Pick one idea, one sentence, or one tiny shift and try it in a low stakes moment this week. Then notice what changes, even if it is just by 1%. If you want more support, head over to psychtoparent.com. You'll find show notes, simple scripts, and parent-friendly guides that go with these episodes. While you're there, make sure you join the Tiny Wins mailing list so you get weekly brain-based tips, real-life examples from my work with families, and first dibs on new workshops and resources. It's the easiest way for us to stay connected beyond the podcast. If this podcast was helpful, it really does matter when you tap follow or subscribe. Leave a quick review or text it to a friend who is parenting a big-feeling, big-hearted kid too. This podcast is for education and encouragement. It is not therapy, and it's not a substitute for individualized care. If you're worried about your child or yourself, please reach out to a trusted professional in your area. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are building something new, one tiny win at a time. I'll see you in the next episode, probably with a cold coffee in hand, cheering you on.